After being a Groyper for the last half decade, Kai Schwemmer apparently has gotten a role in the non-Groyper College Republicans of America as a new political director. So a pretty high-end position. He's been lying about his affiliation to Fuentes, and as a guy who's known him for 6 years, I know acutely that he is lying. And we're going to go over his post, how he's bent the knee to the ADL apparently, and is generally just trying to sneak his way through another problem that he found himself in. So apparently Kai Schwemmer got blasted by Jonathan Greenblatt, who's kind of like an antagonist of the far right, obviously, and for good reason. The guy's kind of conniving, will try to cancel you, bring up your old tweets. But in this case, it's one thing to say like, oh, I said a slur 5 years ago. It's another thing to say, I totally didn't, suck this guy off, Nick Fuentes, for years, pause. And so anyway, Greenblatt says, appointing Kai Schwemmer, a longtime ally of white supremacist Nick Fuentes, as political director signals the College Republicans of America normalizing anti-Semitism and white supremacy. So again, CRA already took a huge load, pause again, a lot of flack for getting Kai into the fold. Now, could this be because they want Groypers to kind of more or less coalesce with the CRA, the more establishment wing of the right wing? Or could it be that they see Kai as so talented, so good as like a scuffed Patrick Bateman, that all of a sudden they're going to actually do more for Trump in 2026, which is ironic given that, again, Nick Fuentes, who Kai supports to this day, by the way, they're still friends, doesn't want us to vote Republican and, in fact, wants his supporters to vote Democrat. Anyway, so Kai responds to Greenblatt. Life is a process of growth and refinement. My comments in high school and as a teenager should not be taken accurately to reflect my views or demeanor now. Now, keep in mind that he's, I think, 23. He's a year older than me. And, he says teenager, which, again, that would have been, 4 years ago? And ultimately with Kai, he was supporting Nick on and off while he was still on his mission this past year. And so to say that, oh my God, I've changed so much is bullshit. And when I first talked to him 5 years ago, when we were all doing the Zoomer TikTok stuff, he was a part of the Republican Hype House. He's been mostly, this, I wouldn't say white nationalist, but, paleo-conservative. And he would say as much if we were honest. Now, he goes on and he says he condemns all forms of hatred, including anti-Semitism, obviously. Again, correct response. I'm not a Groyper. What the fuck are we talking about here? There's dozens of pictures with him and Nick. You have them at White Boy Summer together. You have him streaming on cozy.tv, which was like a fourth-rate Temu Rumble ripoff website where only Groyper generals would have streams. Some being Jimbo Zoomer, fucking Jaden McNeil at the time. You had Beards and Beardley. He was down here, and then you had, obviously, fucking Bookcat. Anyway, so the point being is that he was right there. And additionally, all positions I hold are personal ones, not of those of the CRA. Well, that's kind of bullshit, because the CRA specifically would tell us when we were, getting training and as a college Republican president at the time, they were like, okay, well, be mindful that you're representing the organization. So yeah, your thoughts are also supposed to be more or less in line with what the national narrative is. So that's ridiculous. Again, he's begging our stupidity, which is insulting. So I reject all the ADL's allegation that the college Republicans currently hate or have ever hated Jews. That's kind of an obfuscation if you've ever seen one. Anyway, in the past, I've spoken in ways that were unnecessarily crass or demeaning. That's not what he's talking about. Greenblatt is not talking about, this guy was a dick on Twitter. This guy was an asshole in a Discord chat. He's talking about anti-Semitism, which I think is kind of bullshit, right? Obviously, he's exaggerating. He's crying out in pain. But the point being, though, is that, again, he's obfuscating. He's, beating around the bush. He's running circles around that bush. And so then he goes, I'm conscious of that fact, and since returning from my service as a missionary, have made adjustments to become a better disciple of Christ. So again, this mission, which is kind of a requirement for most Mormons, men that is kind of like a convenient thing, because if you recall, when he returned from his mission, that was 2025, and then you see that those take 2 years on average. So he left in 2023. If you recall, that's at the zenith when Jaden left Nick and he became Judas, and he went on the Kino Casino, and Nick was in the throes of it. He lost a debate to Medicare because he was flagging people. I know this is all like incel wizard stuff, but it's all true. And so conveniently, he leaves when Nick is at his lowest, relatively speaking. Then he comes back during the generational run. He goes on Tucker Carlson. He gets praised by Candace Owens and whatever, beefs with those people, and gets even more clout off the back of that, gets on Piers Morgan, etc. So this is just stupid. Now, this whole thing really irks me because I know Kai well enough to know that he's lying. And secondly, you have people like Jake Lloyd, who we all know, like as in the three of us would know, as of years ago. He was a Groyper too, but he'd be honest about the fact. And he goes, do you or do you not think that we should vote for Democrats in the midterms? And mind you, he was on a Twitter space. I can't find it now, but it was a several hour long Twitter space. And somebody point blank asked him, Lance Videos, I know Lance also, we all know Lance. Okay, so Lance asked him, hey Kai, Will you, because I know Nick Fuentes says that we should vote Democrat in the midterms. What do you think? And he's like, oh, well, I got to go if Lance is going to do this stuff. So it's like, okay, he can't answer the question. This is really important. Will Donahue on Twitter not too long ago, this week, said we made 1.4 million voter contacts in the 2024 election to help President Trump. And that's all true. And I did the training. I talked to Will Donahue in Pennsylvania. I door knocked for hours in Philly. And I'll tell you, I actually did something, and I will vote Republican in 2026, and I have no qualms about it. People like Nick Fuentes will countersignal, not do jack shit, threaten to give the election in Michigan to Kamala, by the way, no joke, didn't even vote for Trump in 24, has spent the last year and a half just bitching about Trump. And then you have Kai, mostly agreeing, not countersignaling Nick, unless you're some Groypers that I'll get to in a minute. And you have this girl, this Void, Kelly Hoskins, I don't know who she is, a Utah Republican. He's got them by the balls. Understandable. Now, this is what Kai wants you to think. I'm really just a chill guy. It's like, dude, number one, cringe. You're an adult, gay. Okay, you're not 10. And he goes, so true, duh. Okay, now, so some Groypers must have not gotten the hint from Nick's video that we're going to see in a minute. But apparently, disgraceful Groyper says, Groyper cursed, bitch. So a lot of them are tweaking. This guy, Texelma Groyper. Again, these guys just name whatever inanimate object and then call it Groyper. It started with like Arizona Groyper, Texas Groyper. Then it became like fentanyl needle Groyper and like bath salts Groyper. Anyway, so he says, weak statement, never apologize. And then they have a picture of a whiter Nick Fuentes mewing, which is kind of ironic. And then we have Thinker, America Frog Pill, saying talk soon. And then it's Groyper curse, recipient you, reasoning, counter signaling Nicholas J. Fuentes. So there you go. Now, to round this back out, Riley Beasley, don't know who he is, says, never seen Kai not smiling once. I stand with Kai. So again, super gay. He looks like a lesbian fat mom there. Anyway, low blow. All right, so Nick has a 30-second clip where he acknowledges the Kai situation as it's been blowing up his timeline, I guess, and this was yesterday.
Groyperstein the Destroyer sent $50. Kai Schwemmer renounces being a Groyper. Thoughts? Disloyal? Or hiding his power level Mormons are awful?
Oh, I'll say this much. Never apologize. Never apologize. You think we would have learned that one by now? You think we'd know that one by now? Well, he's not a Groyper. That's what he said. Okay. Noted.
Beardson Beardley sent $50.
Okay, so keep that in mind. He is, okay, that's a super gay still, but that's just Nick every other second. Now, Nick is saying, well, I should have taught you, son, that you don't apologize. And he has said that a lot, but I will say, there's two ways that Nick could be playing this. He could, and this is what I believe. He wants Kai, because Kai really looks up to Nick and has for years. If you know them both, you would get it. So he knows that he has Kai by the balls, pause, again. And he knows that Kai will do whatever he wants. And so if Kai gets onto this political position and that ingratiates more power to Nick indirectly via the CRA, then all of a sudden Nick has a pulse and he has a lever to pull with a big college Republican association, the biggest one in the country by far. So he could just say, okay, well, Kai, disavow me, whatever, get the Jews off your back, generally speaking. And then all of a sudden, Nick has more power in politics. And Kai gets more power, and then Kai gets to please Daddy Nick, and maybe that works out that way. Or if you just read it, just at face value, and you're just dumb and autistic, you'd actually say, well, wow, Kai really disavowed Nick. Oh, Groyper curse, bitch. We're going to mass flag all your shit, which I don't think is going to happen. So if you read between the lines, that's the take. All right, so to end out the video, we're going to just share this. Again, this was from almost 5 years ago, so keep that with a grain of salt. But then also, you've got this America First hat in the profile picture, kind of gay. Anyway, grown man, by the way. I support Nick Fuentes. Anyone who calls themselves a conservative should too. I don't think he's changed his mind, but comment down below if you think he's changed his mind. Again, I don't really have a problem with Guy. He's been pretty nice to me over the last several years. I don't talk to him or anything, but yeah, I mean, I don't like lying. Everybody I know thinks he's a snake. I don't know, call John Doyle about that. I mean, come on, he was a double agent for the Doyle crew and Nick Fuentes at the same time before he left for his mission 3 years ago. The Kino Casino aptly titled him Kai the Spy, and I think he's doing well for himself at least, so congratulations on that. I know he never cracked Sarah Stock, so that must hurt, getting cucked by Elijah Schaefer of all people, but I'll leave that one to the side. So anyways, like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want more content like this, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Adios.